The movie opens from the POV of a man in a crowded subway, where a baby suddenly begins crying loudly. One passenger is so irritated by the sound that he yells at the baby and scolds the mother for bringing a child on the subway during rush hour, while everyone is glued to their phones. Moments later, the man receives a call from a woman, but he declines it and exits the subway. He then gets another call, which he reluctantly answers, and informs the woman that he's heading for some work. She turns out to be his ex-girlfriend, and she delivers the shocking news that she's in the hospital and has just discovered she's pregnant with his child. She wants his input on the matter and asks what she should do, but the man is gripped with panic and left completely speechless. He asks where she is and wants to visit her, but the woman tells him not to bother, saying she has already made up her mind. She reveals her decision, but the man doesn't understand her because of poor connection, leaving him anxious. As he rushes through the underground passage to catch his next train, the signal suddenly goes dead and the call is cut short. Just then, he notices an overhead sign reading Exit 8, as well as a strange older man passing by. He continues forward and soon comes across a wallboard showing Exit 0. But seconds later, the man strangely finds himself back in the same spot as before, facing the same old man and the same overhead sign. The cycle goes on indefinitely, and no matter how far he walks, he is trapped in the same hallway, with the same sign, and the same old guy. At this moment, we finally see the face of our protagonist, who is referred to as the Lost Man. He now realizes that he's trapped in this endless loop and must find a way out, because no matter how much he walks, he always ends up in the central hall. At one point, the Lost Man tries to turn around to see the old guy. The Lost Man bolts away in panic, but he ends up returning to the same hallway and sees the older man approaching him, prompting him to run in the opposite direction, but it still leads to the same path. Next, the Lost Man frantically tries to set off the emergency alarm, but it doesn't work. He tries to open the door of the nearby rooms, but they're also locked. Seconds later, he notices blood on himself, and it turns out to be dripping from the overhead sign. The scared guy runs away in the opposite direction, only to notice that something has changed. The wallboard now shows Exit 1, whereas it previously showed 0. He also finds a poster with instructions warning him to be vigilant for abnormal situations. If no abnormalities occur, he must leave through the exit and not turn around or look back. But in case of an abnormality, he must immediately turn around and go the same way he came. The Lost Man then continues walking and soon arrives at the central hall, where he notices that the blood is now nowhere to be seen and realizes it was just an anomaly earlier. When the same old man walks by, the Lost Man asks him where Exit 8 is and what exactly counts as an abnormal situation, but the old man doesn't say a word. And so, he moves forward and is struck with shock when he notices a wallboard showing Exit 0 again, making him feel completely trapped and bewildered. Regardless, the Lost Man continues walking and tries to remember everything to notice any abnormalities. He clicks pictures of his surroundings to compare and even snaps a photo of the old man, who always passes by him. He soon arrives at the wallboard showing Exit 1, which means he now has 7 more to go to leave this place. Unfortunately, when he returns to the central hall and checks his phone, he's shocked to discover that all pictures have been corrupted and replaced with yellow static. Frustrated, the Lost Man carefully observes his surroundings for any abnormality and finds everything exactly the same, but when he turns around, he is horrified to see the old man standing right behind him and smiling with a chilling grin. The Lost Man recalls the rules and realizes it is an abnormality, so he immediately goes back instead of moving forward. The old man keeps following him with his grotesque smile, so the panicked Lost Man sprints as fast as he can. Fortunately, this seems to work, and he finally notices the wallboard that says he has reached Exit 2. Next, he arrives at the central hall again, where he checks each item very carefully and doesn't find any abnormalities. But while he tries to leave, he hears a baby crying from one of the lockers, which leaves him deeply unsettled. He tries to open the locker, but soon figures out it must be an anomaly. And then suddenly, this prompts him to turn around and leave. As expected, it turns out to be an anomaly, and he notices the wallboard that says Exit 3. As a result of his dire situation, the lost man begins to have asthma and cough violently, but he somehow calms himself and moves forward. He again checks every item in the central hall carefully and doesn't find any anomaly. He then tries to retrieve his inhaler from his bag, but suddenly notices that all the pictures displayed on the wall are creepily staring at him, so the terrified guy quickly turns around to leave. Fortunately, it works, as he notices the sign for Exit 4, which means he is halfway there. In this way, there are no abnormalities, so the guy continues his journey. He soon reaches the 5th exit, which fills him with a surge of hope that he might finally escape this nightmare. He arrives at the central hall again and doesn't find any anomaly. But just then, he gets a call from his ex. He declines it at first, but when she calls again, he finally picks up and reveals how he's trapped in the underground passage at the subway and cannot find the exit. She once again asks him what she should do about the pregnancy, and he reveals how, earlier on the subway, a baby was crying, and his mom was being scolded by a passenger. No one stepped forward to help the poor woman, as they were glued to their phones, and he also pretended not to see anything. He tearfully admits that he doesn't think he can be a good father and walks forward, while we suddenly see his ex behind him. The man soon hangs up and is shocked to see the exit number has returned to 0, which horrifies him. This proves that the phone call was just an anomaly, as there isn't even any cell signal in this place. Distraught, the man begins to start over but is horrified to notice that the hallway has turned completely yellow. His asthma also worsens, and he collapses in a fit of rage and seemingly surrenders to his fate. But after some time, he gathers what little courage remains and decides to turn around, after which he reaches Exit 1 once again. Next, the lost man continues his journey and notices a small boy in the hallway. He thinks it's another anomaly and turns around to leave, but he's shocked to see the sign for Exit 0, which means it's not an anomaly, and the kid is a real person. Moments later, he notices the boy again and asks if he's lost. But the boy doesn't say anything and simply runs away. The child then arrives at the central hall and points toward the old man without saying a word. With this, we see the movie from the POV of the old guy, who is referred to as the walking man. The scene cuts to a while ago, where we see that he is also trapped in the endless loop, just like the lost man. He manages to reach Exit 4, where he comes across the same kid and decides to help him. When they arrive in the hallway, they begin carefully inspecting everything, and we notice a girl passing by each time. At this point, the duo manages to reach the 5th exit, which thrills the walking man, as now only 3 levels remain between him and freedom. They reach the hallway again, and while checking the surroundings, the girl from earlier suddenly approaches the man. She claims she's lost and can't find the exit, so she asks if she can accompany him. The walking man agrees without hesitation, and all of them begin looking carefully for anomalies. But the girl starts acting strangely and asks the man why he doesn't want to stay here forever, because the daily grind of crowded trains and office work is too stressful. She repeats the same phrase over and over. And then suddenly,
毎日ぎゅうぎゅう詰めの電車乗って会社行って同じこと繰り返してそっちの方が地獄みたいでかわいそう
the man realizes that she is an anomaly and quickly turns around to leave with the boy. He is relieved to find that they have reached the 6th exit. In the next round, the man doesn't find any anomaly. However, the boy notices a knob in the center of a door, which wasn't there before. Regardless, he doesn't say a word and just stands there. Unfortunately, the man doesn't understand and drags the kid away, only to realize that they've reached Exit 0 again. This causes the walking man's rage to boil over, and he kicks the wall and aggressively tears the instruction sign. He cries and screams about how he was supposed to visit his child today. But upon seeing the kid in the distance, the man apologizes for his breakdown and suggests they restart again. They return to the central hall, where they find a staircase that seems to lead to an exit. The walking man rejoices and is convinced they are finally escaping, so he excitedly walks toward it. The kid realizes it's just an anomaly and tries to stop him, but the desperate man pushes him to the ground and climbs the stairs alone. After the walking man disappears, the kid turns around and soon comes across the sign that says Exit 1, confirming he was right. He heads down the hallway and notices the walking man suddenly moving with a cold and expressionless face. The kid tries to approach him, but the man doesn't respond at all, like a soulless machine. They soon reach the sign showing Exit 0, and we learn the walking man has now been reduced to nothing more than a background character in this twisted game. Seeing this, the horrified kid continues moving alone and soon comes across our protagonist, the lost man. When the lost man realizes that the boy is not an anomaly, the two continue their journey together. The boy then notices an anomaly sign on the overhead board, but he doesn't speak and just stares at it silently. The lost man doesn't understand him, and soon they arrive at the sign showing Exit 0, which means they have to start all over again. In the next round, the lost man stares at a mural on the wall and assumes it's a bit different. But the boy doesn't care and just walks straight ahead, leaving the man with no choice but to follow him. Soon, they reach the sign for Exit 1, which means the boy was right. During the next level, the man doesn't find anything different, but the boy stands in front of a door and stares, just like before. The lost man checks it and notices a strange knob in the middle of the door, which wasn't there earlier. They immediately turn around and reach Exit 2, where the man realizes that this kid has sharp instincts and exceptional observational skills. Moving on to the next level, the light in the hallway suddenly goes out, forcing the man to use his phone to see his surroundings. The ventilation door also unexpectedly opens, and blood begins to drip down from there, accompanied by strange and unsettling sounds. The man is paralyzed with fear as he hears rats screeching and a baby crying loudly. And then, when he checks the overboard, the man is gripped with panic, but he somehow manages to turn around and run away with the kid while being chased by strange rats. Luckily, they reach Exit 3. Later, the two return to the hallway, where a woman stands motionless in the center, staring at them. The kid speaks for the first time and exclaiming, "Mama," but the lost man realizes she is just an anomaly and stops him, causing the poor child to collapse unconscious in his arms. They soon reach the fourth exit, where the kid eventually wakes up, so the man asks if he got separated from his mom. The boy finally speaks and reveals he got separated from her on purpose, because he wanted her to come after him. The lost man reveals that he also did it once, and they both realize they are scared of their moms. As they open up, they discover another thing in common: they both have never seen their fathers. In the next level, the boy points out how the number 8 is seen upside down this time. And so, they turn around and successfully manage to reach the fifth exit. They then return to the central hall, where they suddenly find one of the doors open. The lost man checks it and hears a child crying before he sees his own version inside the subway, trapped in the crowd just like at the beginning of the movie. Regardless, he closes the door, and since it is obviously an anomaly, the duo turns around to leave and manages to reach the sixth exit. Before they move forward, the lost man asks the boy what he would like to do first if they get out. The boy responds that he wants to eat cheese-filled pizza, while the lost man isn't sure what he would do. The kid then gives him a snail shell as a token of gratitude and says it will protect him. Up next, the duo continues their journey and seems excited since only 2 exits remain. They carefully check each item in the hallway, right when a loud blaring alarm echoes. And then all of a sudden, upon seeing this, the terrified duo immediately tries to turn around, but they can't fight against the flood, which immediately crashes over them. The scene then suddenly cuts to a quiet beach, where we see the lost man enjoying a fun day with his girlfriend and their kid. The kid hands his dad the snail shell and, shockingly, the kid turns out to be the same boy from the hallway. The emotional man hugs his son tightly, and the two go to the beach, where they play and laugh in the water. Returning to the flooded hallway, the lost man desperately tries to save the boy and places him atop the overhead signpost for safety. The boy is fortunately unharmed, but the man cannot resist the water's pressure and is swept away by the flood. Sometime later, the water begins to recede, and the boy wakes up to find himself amid the wreckage of the flood. There is no sign of the lost man anywhere, so the boy continues the journey alone and finally reaches the 7th exit. In the final round, the boy checks all his surroundings and doesn't find any anomaly, after which he walks straight and leaves. Soon, we see the arrival of the lost man again, who turns out to be still alive. He carefully inspects every corner and concludes that there is no anomaly this time. He summons all of his courage and walks forward until he reaches exit 8, where he notices a staircase in the distance. This fills the man with hope, and he gazes at the snail shell before heading toward the stairs. Everything appears normal as he sees rushing commuters. He even gets a signal on his phone, which means he has finally left the nightmare behind. Moments later, he calls his ex-girlfriend, who turns out to still be in the hospital. He tells her that he is on his way to meet her, and it seems he has changed his mind about the baby. But then, when the man boards a subway, something strange begins happening again that sends a chill down his spine. He notices the same baby crying nearby, and the same passenger scolding the mother for bringing a child into the subway during rush hour. Everyone is glued to their phones, and no one stands up for the poor woman. He is paralyzed with terror as the horrifying truth sinks in that he is still trapped in the loop. But this time, the lost man summons his courage and finally turns around to confront the bully, just as the movie comes to an end. Thus, we reach the end of this movie. Thanks for watching. If you like the movie, support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next movie. Goodbye.